Thank you for tuning in to Speaking of My History. This week on Speaking of My History, we highlight Reginald F. Lewis.
I think the biggest problem facing our inner city youth today really is education, and a sense that their pursuit of a good education is going to truly make a difference in their lives. Better jobs, higher living standards. So I think it's breaking the cycle of despair and a feeling that whatever I do, it's really not going to make a difference. That has to change.
Reginald F. Lewis, born December 7, 1942. Reginald F. Lewis was an American businessman. He was the richest African-American man in the 1980s. Born in Baltimore, Maryland, he grew up in a middle-class neighborhood. He won a football scholarship to Virginia State College, graduating with a degree in economics in 1965. He graduated from the Harvard Law School in 1968 and was a member of Kappa Alpha Psi. Recruited to the top New York law firm, Paul, Weiss, Rifkind, Wharton Garrison, immediately after law school, Lewis left to start his own law firm 2 years later. After 15 years as a corporate lawyer with his own practice, Lewis focused on corporate law, structuring his investments in minority-owned businesses, and became special counsel to major corporations like General Foods and Equitable Life. Mr. Lewis was also counsel to the New York-based Commission for Racial Justice and represented the Wilmington 10. He was successful in forcing North Carolina to pay interest on the Wilmington 10 bond. He moved to the other side of the table by creating TLC Group, a venture capital firm, in 1983. His first major deal was the purchase of the McCall Pattern Company, a home sewing pattern business, for $22.5 million. From the McCall Pattern Company, a maker of home sewing patterns founded in 1870. With fewer people sewing at home, McCall was seemingly on the decline. Through it all, they posted profits of $6 million in 1983 on sales of $51.9 million. At the time, McCall was number 2 in the industry, holding 29.7% of the market, compared to the industry leader Simplicity Patterns with 39.4%. Lewis managed to negotiate the price down, then raised $1 million himself from family and friends and borrowed the rest from institutional investors and investment banking firm First Boston Corporation. Within a year, he turned the company around by freeing up capital tied in fixed assets, such as building and machinery, and finding a new use for machinery during downtime by manufacturing greeting cards. In 1987, Lewis bought Beatrice International Foods from Beatrice Companies for $985 million. Renaming it TLC Beatrice International, a snack food, beverage, and grocery store that was the largest African-American owned and managed business in the U.S. The deal was partly financed through Mike Mikan of the Maverick Investment Bank, Drexel Burnham Lambert. In order to reduce the amount needed to finance the leverage buyout, Lewis came up with the plan to sell off some of the division's assets simultaneously with the takeover. When the TLC Beatrice reported revenue of $1.8 billion in 1987, it became the first black-owned company to have more than $1 billion in annual sales. At its peak in 1996, TLC Beatrice International's holding incorporated has sales of $2.2 billion and was number 512 on the Fortune magazine list of 1,000 largest companies. In 1992, Lewis donated $3 million to Harvard Law School, the largest grant at the time in the school's history. The school renamed its International Law Center the Reginald F. Lewis International Law Center, the first major facility at Harvard named in honor of an African American. On January 19, 1993, at the age of 50 in New York City, Reginald F. Lewis would die from brain cancer. Mr. Lewis' wife, Lola Lewis, took over the company a year after his death. Lola Lewis currently chairs the Reginald F. Lewis Foundation, which also supports the Reginald F. Lewis College of Business at Virginia State University. In 2005, the Reginald F. Lewis Museum of Maryland African American History and Culture opened in Baltimore with the support of a $5 million grant from his foundation. It is the East Coast's largest African American museum, occupying an 82,000 square foot facility with permanent and special exhibition space, interactive learning environments, auditorium, resource center, oral history recording studio, museum shop, cafe, classrooms, meeting rooms, outside terrace, and reception areas. It highlights the history and accomplishments of African Americans with special focus on Maryland's African American community. The museum is also a Smithsonian affiliate. At the age of 6 years old, Reginald Lewis overheard his grandparents discussing employment discrimination against African Americans. He asked, "Why should white guys have all the fun?" This self-assured child would grow up to become the CEO of Beatrice International and one of the most successful entrepreneurs ever. At the time of his death in 1993, his personal fortune was estimated $400 million, and his vast commercial empire spanned 4 continents. Reginald F. Lewis, an American businessman and an African American billionaire. Thank you for tuning in to Speaking of My History.
You may be having a difficult time in a specific problem, but if you maintain the core values, you can generally ride through any particular problem, and then in the end, we'll be able to be pleased with the result.